Now we're going to look at Gabrielle, the Torch in the Dark. 2 cost, 2 purity, 10 morale. It's a unique angel character. It's a 6/4. And when it's on the battlefield, all your opponent cards cost 1 more.
Alright, so immediate thoughts are the stats are okay. They're obviously a little bit underpowered. My first thought was actually, making a deck around this because you can get multiple copies of a unique character into play with some shenanigans. Like you can bounce Gabrielle and then play another one, something like that. Try to make it so that all your opponent's cards cost like 6 mana at minimum. It would be kind of stupid, but I just think it would be fun. But I mean, it seems okay. 10 morale is kind of a high cost, but if your deck isn't that creature heavy or you're not worried about it losing to morale, it seems pretty good to me, honestly, because 2 mana it's 2 mana at bare minimum. It's going to cost your opponent 1 more mana, I'd suspect,
to kill it.
not even just to kill it, just because it's going to be on the battlefield for 1 turn. Which means it's arguably a 1 mana 6/4, which is excellent stats. The 10 morale cost is high, but it doesn't seem bad. I would certainly play this in Arena.
So,
Or Rift Run.
Rift Run, yeah, same difference. My opinion when I first saw this card is that it's insanely strong. And I'm formulating my opinion based off of a Magic the Gathering card called Thalia, which gets used competitively a lot, and that's a 2-cost 2/1 that increases your opponent's non-creature spells by 1, which is a similar effect and kind of similar stats when you look at each game. But the point is that this card can keep your opponent a turn behind and or worse if they're playing many cards per turn.
Yes, but one thing I'm going to say is think about a wealthy noble who is also a 2 mana 10 morale cost drop who gives you 1 additional resource every turn.
Well, for 1 turn.
Yes, for 1 turn. And Gabrielle has to be on the battlefield, which means you might not even need spells to clear, no flying. What I'm basically trying to say is it's not broken. I agree that it's strong, but I don't think it's going to be something that will require a nerf.
One thing that's worth considering is, like you said, it has to be on the battlefield, which means it's more vulnerable when its effect is in effect. But also, if I'm playing it in my deck as opposed to the command zone, it's gonna first enter the support zone, which means it has no effect. Then the next turn, if I move it to the battlefield, I'm under the impression that it still won't have its effect until the turn after. So they'll have 2 turns of prep. But on the other side of the coin, if it's my command zone, it can move straight from my command zone onto the battlefield.
Turn 2, which sets them a turn behind, and can probably be pretty crippling.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely a card that will see play.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's a very strong card. And as far as Rift Run goes, if you can get it in command zone, amazing. If you can't, they have the 2 turns of prep time to kill it. I think it might not be as strong.
Yeah, I still think it's playable. I think Overseers are one of the weaker factions in at least Rift Run. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of happy to see cards that are a little bit stronger.
I think that this card, though, is not going to have as big of an impact on Rift Run as
Oh, no, it's not going to have a huge impact. Cards that had huge impacts were like the Calamity, which now you have to play around every single game.
Yeah. All right, anyways, we're going to move on to another card. Let's see. We're going to look at Shockwave Giant. 8 costs, 10 morale, 1 purity in Warpath, a 16/20. One noteworthy thing is he's not unique like these other cards. He's got a new character subtype, which is Giant. And when he comes into play, he does 10 damage to all other characters in play.
Yeah, this is insane.
That
simply put, 10 damage is going to clear almost all cards. And And it's only one purity, which means that, like, playing around it is going to be really rough if someone has just splashed on Warpath. Yeah, this card is completely insane.
So, as far as Rift Run goes, I think this is a top pick.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no question about it. And in Constructed, I think it's maybe less impactful because you don't want to board wipe yourself as much.
Well, the thing is, the same is true in Rift Run, but...
True, but in Constructed, it's also worth noting that I think that Warpath has a lot of weaknesses, and this might cover...
All of them?
Not all of them. Still, it's still gonna have the slow start.
Yeah.
But this allows for a slow start with a card that just comes down and makes up for that slow start and wipes out a ton of things. I think against any mid-range or aggro deck, this is just gonna completely annihilate them.
Yeah, this seems like almost unnecessary.
Well, I don't see why. I mean, like against control, it doesn't do anything. Let's point that out. It's got 10 morale costs, and it dies to, like, just targeted removal.
Yeah. I'm thinking Rift Run, though. Rift Run, that's huge.
Yeah. In Rift Run, top pick. Easily. And as for Command Zone, this card is definitely weaker in the Command Zone because it gives a lot of warning.
Of course.
The only possible redeeming quality of having it in the Command Zone is once you hit 8 mana, they have to consider it.
The threat of it is huge. Like, my current Rift Run deck has an Evolving Parasite in the Command Zone. I had one game where I got Death Raid twice and Flashbanged while in the Command Zone.
Yeah, it's the threat of the effect, even while it's not in play, because it could come into play. This is a pretty impressive card, and I'm really happy for it because I think Warpath personally could use. I think it's fine in Rift Run, but I'd like to see some cards that are just a little more flashy, and this is flashy. All right, let's check out another one. So there's one for each faction, by the way.
Yeah.
We have Super Infectious Zombie, 4 cost, 4 morale, 1 purity of the sleepers. It's an undead card with Infect. It's a 10/10, and whenever you gain control of an opponent's character, that character also gains Infect.
Yeah, so it's kind of like having Kralika.
Kirillek?
Kirillek, yeah.
So Kirillek, for those of you who don't know, is a 6 cost location that gives all of your undead Infect. And yeah, that was my immediate thought, is that having Kirillek kind of negates the purpose of Super Infectious Zombie.
But it's only 1 purity.
It's only 1 purity. It's also worth noting that Kirillek is 6 cost and has no other effect, whereas this is 4 cost and gives you a 10/10 body.
Yeah. I think it's excellent. Very solid, very strong. Nothing insane, but it's still really strong.
I think as far as Rift Run goes, this is probably the best 4-drop you could get. There's the other
it's
recurring...
whenever you gain control of an opponent's character.
Yeah, it affects all gain control effects, which means Infect on your other zombies, or if you have the occasional Zuza, the Siren, or some other effect that's going to take control of an opponent's card. There aren't that many, but...
regardless, I think it's really strong.
Yeah, and I do think it's very, very much worth pointing out that
even the stats are good.
Yeah, the stats are important. Infect 10/10 for 4 is respectable, because looking at the other 4-drops, we've got the 4 cost 8/9 who mills you for 2. We've got the recurring zombie, the recurring dead or whatever it is, that's a 6/8 that comes back if you play it again.
Yeah. Well,
neither of those are bad cards, but this guy is just a body that goes on the battlefield without a second thought.
Yeah, this is an Infectious Zombie with an upgrade on it.
Yeah.
And it's for that cost, 4 mana. Except it's 2 cards in 1 and as an additional ability. I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, I think especially for Rift Run, because I think in Constructed, most of the sleeper decks, at least the ones I use, focus on swarming with many zombies as opposed to just like the on-curve. This guy's an on-curve 4-drop, whereas in my deck, I'd probably just play two drops. But perhaps with the introduction of a cost-efficient 4-drop, I might edit my deck.
Yeah. With this and the Warpath card alone, I'm wondering if maybe they're going to move towards a more hybrid purity type of game. Because it seems like most of these strong cards in the past are multiple purity into some faction. And this card and that Warpath card alone are very splashable cards.
I mean, that's true, but I think that there have always been powerful 1 purity cards. And I don't think that we're breaking the trend yet, because the previous cards we looked at were all double purity. So I think perhaps these cards will encourage more brewing, but that's just the nature of having a new set.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one.